Shalom is man beer, you sure he can't let his hair grow down. And the same with the wine. Shalom is man beer, sure. He can drink wine outside the temple and outside the Avodah. Well, Tanya, we've learned in the Brisa, Rabbi Haimeir. I say, Kohanim Asurin Lishtos Yain Leolam. But you see, Rabbi says that he can never drink any wine. Aval Moir says, what should we do then with the takona? What should we do with that takona which says that he can outside the Avodah? Asri Hasam. And behind the time he said this is the reason. The reason why he says that you can't drink at all, he says, Mahira Yibna Beis HaMikdash, he says the time will come and it'll be very sudden when the Beis HaMikdash is to be rebuilt, and we have to call all the Kohanim to go there and build that Beis HaMikdash. How can they be drunk? They must not be drunk under those circumstances. We must have a Kohen who is fit for the Avodah, for the ceremonies, for the service, and for Leko. And we wouldn't have any if they were all going to have a drink. We must have Kohanim who are fit for the service, and Leko Nishta, there aren't any. He said, perhaps, he says, when we're talking about the Kohanim, he says, perhaps there are a number there, he says. Va'ayil Hosom Name Efsha, the Naim Porter, he says, perhaps they will have some that could go and have a shlof, they'll have a sleep, and they'll get over their drunkenness. And in that way, they will be fit to do the Avodah. They will go then to be able to do the Avodah. So this is the reason why some say, one says that they shouldn't drink at all, and the other says, look, outside, and he's not going into the temple to perform the Avodah, he can't have a drink. The Omar Ravacha. Ravacha says, Derech Mil V'Shena. It says, when we're talking about these Kohanim in the temple and so on, he says that there's every possibility that culture whom are figuring it dissipates the wine. If they have a sleep, they have something there, they can always dissipate the drunkenness, the intoxication. That's why the rabbis say, if you have any whiskey, strong drink, but if you eat with it, then you'll never get drunk. Mm-hmm. It absorbs the intoxication, whatever. We learned on this, Omar Rab Nachman, Omar Rab Barabua, Lo Shanu Ela Sheshosa Kadiravius, providing he has drunk at least a ravius. Now, a ravius is a quarter log, would be about, say, 1.5 fluid ounces or something. That's about that amount of wine. If he has that amount of wine already, he's on the way if he starts to drink too much. But Yosef Mikadei Ravius, more than that amount, Kolchkein, the Derech Todose, that he will be in a troublesome position with Moshe and Mesgadze, and he'll be drunk. Ravashi says, Shasuya Yayin de Machali Avodah. He says those who drink wine, the Machali Avodah, it cheapens obviously the service. So that's why we don't. It invalidates, in other words, the service, and one should not drink. And that applies also to people who are davening in shul. You know that in a shul, there aren't very, very many people who are not counted for a minyan. But if you've got even 10 people in a shul and one of them is drunk and is sleeping underneath the benches, you've only got 9. You've got to understand there has to be an element of seriousness about all these things. Gozru behu Rabbanon, And the rabbis decreed, Pruei Rosh, they decreed that the ones who are growing their hair long, the lo machali avoda. To cheapen, that is to say, to invalidate the avoda, lo go to b'chud rabbanan. The rabbanan, they declare that it does not affect the avoda. In other words, if they grow the hair, yes, but the wine, no. You can't have too much wine, but the growing of the hair, if a person has too long the hair, that does not invalidate him from performing the service.
Rabbi,
But it says that it is a pasuk which says, Yain v'sheichar, wine and strong drink, al taste. Do not drink ato uvanecha, you and your children, v'lo samusu, so that you should not die. Right, yeah, what you
now, Rabbi, all right, the trend today is to shave your hair. Is there
This is referring, first of all, they're not permitted to do that. We are not permitted because you must have faith. As you say, Pastor Konacha, you have to have lo sakifu, you shall not round your head. Your head, you must have faith, because the skinheads and all those people were pagans, and we don't copy them.
Yes, but
Lo sakifu Pastor Sheikha, you must not destroy your hair, you understand? Shave your head, in other words, and also the Pasuk Konecha, the corners of your beard. You have to have 5 corners, 1, 2, 3, you see? 4, 5. You're going to have that. Code to Rambam, that is to be maintained. So you see today some skinheads that are like the pagans really.
But not skinheads, I mean members of the community.
They're skinheads, what else are they? You call a skinhead a criminal, it's true. But if they've shaved their heads and they have no payas, it's a pagan. Why do we Jewish people make ourselves a little different? Because we didn't want the world to know we're pagans. This is why we put on the caps. The Kohanim put on caps, we put on caps, we cover our head. And there are other reasons also, I'm not going into that now. But the thing is that if they shave the head, we take all this from the priests anyway. And we're not allowed to do that. So, not allowed to do it. There are people who do plenty of things that we shouldn't do.
There are so many in our shul, the youngsters who've got shaved their heads.
You see, that's the point. I mean, I don't know why they shave their heads. I just don't know why.
It's not Jewish. And also
what's the reason? Pardon?
Jews don't tattoo either.
Tattoos.
We're not allowed. Saretis. You're not permitted by Al Torah. I mean,
right.
We are not allowed to do things like
Terrible
that.
to see people.
You see, because the pagans did that.
Yeah.
Everything is in order that we should separate. We are a Goy Kadosh means a holy Goy. Why are we a holy Goy, a holy nation? It was in order that we should be separate. The word Kadosh is to separate ourselves from these sort of things. The Canaanites, they shaved their heads. They pagans, and we put a cap on, you see. Same thing, but you say, Lo sistra tu sarotis, that is, you should not put tattoos into your flesh. We're not permitted to do things. But they are doing it because they don't know. I don't say they do it on purpose to deny the Torah, but they do it out of pure ignorance, but it's wrong. It's a chatas bishgoga. And I can tell you, it's a sin in ignorance, in other words. But the point is, once it's in there, you can't get rid of it. I don't know if they can get rid of the tattoo.
No.
Can.
All right, we have to finish here because we're going to go to talk about Pesach. So let us finish up here. Mesrei, that's where an objection is raised here.
Will you be able to? Otherwise, I'll make
That's all right.
Rabbi, what about the current trend to body piercing?
We're not allowed to do anything like that, which is to it is all goy. It's chokas hagoy. I want to tell you, we don't put flowers on a grave. This is not because there's something wrong. We don't do anything to ape the goyim.
Yeah.
And what is the piercing business? All of this is aping the goyim. They put in the nose, they put in the ears.
Oh,
But in biblical times they did have nose rings.
They had, yeah, you're right, but we don't have that now, do we? The here
You're
is
saying-
Chokasagoy, we don't. You see, we're not speaking of halacha. It's minhag, isn't it? The customs. But some of these customs become laws. And we don't put on flowers on our grave, but in Israel they do. Why don't we do it? Not because it's not nice not to do it, but the goyim do it. So we put pebbles. Why do we put pebbles? A sign of a matzeva. As though we are putting on there, a matzeva, a pillar of stone as a memorial. But we don't do anything to copy the goy, that's all. It's chukas hagoy, it's under the category of chukas hagoy. So remember, we don't pierce tattoos. All this goes because the goyim are doing this. And we don't want to be reckoned amongst that lot. And I know a lot of Yiddish people, they are doing it. Why? Because they want to be like them. That's all. One person said to me, we can't be out of the crowd. We've got to be part of the crowd. Well, that's just point verkehrt. Well, we don't want to be part of that crowd. We are an Am Kodesh. And we have to understand our obligations. But they are doing it. What can you do with it? It's like everything else. People should daven 3 times a day. They don't want to daven once. Well, but the Yiddishkeit, they are there. They are true Yidden in heart. If you couldn't attack them and say they're not Jews, they are Jews. But they don't observe or are committed enough to do the ritual and whatever we have to do. All right, Pesach. Now, dear friends, I must tell you something about Pesach. As you know, in Israel it's only 7 days. We have 8. Why? Because of the calendar. We must always remember that we have the extra day, and if one doesn't want to have the extra day, then he should go and live in Israel. The minhag is so strong that if an Israeli comes to pray, for example, for a holiday in Pesach, he only has to have 7 days because he's an Israeli. He's going back. And if, however, a person like myself, I went to Israel for Pesach, I had to have a second Seder. That's what I have to do. And I must say at the hotel I was at in Canaan, in Tzvas, they were very nice because the Rosh Hashiva there, he made them make a special plate for me, which was very, very nice. I didn't have them to make another special plate. I thought I could use the one from the night before, but they made an extra one for me. Because it's my duty to have the second one because I'm not Israeli, and I'm only there on holiday. I'm coming back to live here. So 7 days, Al Pi Torah is only, but all those who live in the diaspora must have 8 days. 2 Sedorim. And Achron Shel Pesach, which is the 8th day. And over there, when they were all going home on the 8th day, I remained inside the hotel with the Rebbetzin and until I set up to Made Havdalah. When I made Havdalah, then, only then did you start to bring in chametz. It was very, very nice of these people, I must say. I was very impressed with them. Now remember about the type of, what is Pesach? We've got 3 kinds of Pesach here. First of all, Pesach de Mitzrayim. When we talk about Pesach, which was celebrated in Egypt, how did we celebrate it? We were already, on the 14th, we had to be prepared to run. So we took a lamb on the 5th day before, we call it Shabbos HaGodel, it reminds us of it. But the week before you'll have a lamb or a goat, and we put the blood on the doorpost, the upper beam, because Pesach, the angel of death passed over those houses. The word Pesach it's difficult to define because there's no etymology for that. But we translate it roughly, pass over. That the angel of death passes over those houses with the blood on the lintel and on the doorposts, but all those that didn't have it, then it was the death of the firstborn. The firstborn, they were there. And we had to have everything ready our clothes. It was you have your girdle, your shoes on your feet, you had your basket, whatever you had, ready to flee. And about midnight, we started to run. We had no way in which we could make any bread, whatever was slung on our back. We used to take whatever we had, and that's why we call it unleavened bread, Chag HaMatzos. So there are two names, Chag HaPesach, the pastoral festival, Chag HaMatzos, the festival of unleavened bread. These were two separate services in the days of the desert, and also in the time of the temple. Now that's Pesach Mitzrayim. Now we come to Pesach in the time of the Pesach Deiros, in other words, the time of Pesach being celebrated after we were in already our settled quarters, where we have territory. So in the desert we celebrated this, each one in its own tent. But when we were already in our own territory, it was in our houses. And the importance of it was the miracle of the Yetzias Mitzrayim, of the Exodus. We had to see that its feeling and its understanding continues in every generation. So this is why we call it the prayer book Haggadah. It was all based on the verse V'higadato levincha v'yom hahu lema. It's always to tell your children. You must continue that whole story. The Haggadah itself it's sometimes you find it in a siddur, but you see it has been embellished, but it's been modeled in such a way that apart from the fact that we've got the history of the Jewish people, it all goes around 4 questions, which is in a missionary in Pesachim in the Gemara, are 2,000 years old already. Can you imagine? 2,000 years old, that they're going to ask a question, four questions, Man, Ishtana, Halala. These 4 questions are mandatory because it's based on that we understand why we are celebrating the miracle of redemption from Egypt. And so strong is that we say Yetzias Mitzrayim even in our Shema Yisrael only because of that word Yetzias Mitzrayim. Otherwise we don't need the 3rd paragraph at all at night time in Ma'ariv. But we still recite it because we don't wear tzitzis at night time. But we do say Yetzias Mitzrayim. It's almost everywhere. Why? Because people must remember their humble beginnings. Nobody should make himself a great yachsin. We come from pagans. Terach, Avi Avram sold idols. He was a pagan. And we know this from our taste, so we learn from that how we gradually had moved in such a way that we could ultimately become spiritual in our whole way of life, from Terach Avi Avraham until we found the state of Israel. It's a magnificent saga when you see how a people that suffered so much over 4,000 years in one form or another should ultimately survive, and still survives, despite the fact that there's still people who hate us and want to destroy us. So when we see the Haggadah, there was a time when they were knowledgeable enough, even the children were knowledgeable enough to be able to understand what they're asking. And it was only probably about the medieval period where already you see, between the 13th and 15th century, that you start getting Haggadahs in which there is an established answer to all these 4 questions. You say, I remember when I was a boy, for example, in those days Israel only spoke Yiddish, not Hebrew. And although I remember calling my father Abba as a little boy of 2 or 3, I don't think it was more than 3, he made me learn Manishtan in Yiddish. And at the end of it, I had to say, Jetzt Tate empfen mir die 4 kashas. In other words, I have to say, Father, please answer for me these 4 questions. You see, that enabled you to start Holach Ma'anyo. in the Haggadah. But really, it was a saga of history which everybody should know, you understand, and recite for himself. But because people did not know, that's the reason why we had to have a printed version, which we call a Haggadah, and all the answers are in there. So also together with that, embellished, are excerpts from the Midrash, excerpts from the Tefillahs, and then a lot of other aspects of the Haggadah for the sake to keep the children, awake and understanding that it is really for them. So we have songs until you come eventually to Haggadah. Each of these songs are all with reference to helping children understand this is something special tonight. I don't want to go into the detail of the four kashas. I'm sure you all understand it, the dipping twice and so on, but